Good morning, Wade the Grandstreeter here. I'm standing in Orleans, Cape Cod. Behind me is the Orleans police station. I have for myself a cup of coffee from Starbucks and a hat. It says "Live Free or Die." It's the slogan for New Hampshire. Of course, we know that freedom is not free. It costs lives. Today we're going to go to Battleship Cove and we're going to look at some battleships and submarines and things that sailors use to fight for our freedom. So I'm inviting you to come and join me. Here we are in Fall River, Massachusetts, and right behind me is the USS Massachusetts, battleship from World War II. Next to that, the Lion Fish. It's a submarine from World War II. I'm gonna go take a look at it. And inside, Battleship Cove. $25 for an adult, $23 for seniors. Of course, if you're a veteran, it's only $16. Okay, I think we're starting in the hangar with some helicopters. Vietnam era helicopters. Those cockpits were pretty tiny. Shows the name of the officers who flew this. Of course, this is a Huey. The guns on the side, missile launcher. Cockpit much bigger. Those are some big blades. This is a perspective shot, so you can see the size of the chopper next to me. Can you imagine flying these in and out of war zones, being shot at? Glad I didn't have to do that. A lot of brave men did. And this hangar is a PT boat. This is a model of it. PT 103. Gun turrets. Instead of being made out of steel, they are made out of wood. Less expensive. They would carry these torpedoes. It's the crew's head and crew's quarters. Along the sides you can see the torpedo tubes that would fire the torpedoes. Up front here is the helm. Gunner's positions. You have the large gun in the back. Torpedo tubes would be mounted on the sides here. They were 80 feet in length. Manufactured in 1941 at the Electric Boat Company in Bayonne, New Jersey. 43 squadrons were commissioned by the U.S. Navy. Here they had 3 screws down there. That's the type of engine that they would have had. Made by the Packard Motor Car Company. As a V12 engine. There's a model of what a PT base would look like.
Making the transition from swift torpedo attack to a rapid gunboat.
It's very interesting here. What they're doing is they're doing a conservation work on a boat, a PT boat that was sunk for at least the last 50 years because certain chemicals penetrate into the wood. If they're hit with air suddenly, they will crystallize and crack all the wood apart. So they have to leach it out with fresh water. And then they leach it with some plastics in the water, which helps the wood to then hold together. And then it can be displayed. They have another PT boat outside under wraps. Sorry, it's going to be a little noisy out here. We got the freeway bridge right above us. Keystone Squadron. I think we're going to start with the USS Lion Fish. So that's interesting. What's this big orange thing all about?
It's an escape buoy. It shows the position of the ship when you're trying to escape if you've sunk at sea. If you're less than 400 feet down, because after 400 feet, this class ship would implode.
Vallejo class, but that's a diesel sub.
Wait a minute. This is a Vallejo class. I can't command this. I was trained for a nuclear sub.
Are you refusing to take command?
Now here's something to note. As an ex-submariner, I recognize this. All this rust is caused by the salt water and the salt air. When you're working on a submarine, you are constantly chipping and brushing away the rust and repainting to make sure this type of corrosion doesn't happen.
I feel I need a tetanus shot just from looking at it.
That's why there's this saying in the Navy, if it moves, salute it. If it doesn't, paint it. So what we have here, you're seeing these big pipes here. These are the induction pipes. And what are they used for?
For supplying air to the engines, which are back aft.
Right. And so how would you do that when you're underwater?
There's a snorkel up at the mast.
Ah, stick the little snorkel up and...
Suck the air down and run
But you
the
couldn't
engine.
go very deep.
No.
So, you see these induction pipes right here. And then below them, you see these ribs that run along this rounded hull area. That's the actual pressure hull of the submarine. That's what keeps the water out and the people in. Everything else that you see up here is the superstructure. First, I wasn't sure what this was, but we're assuming that this is where they would load the rounds up from below decks for this gun here. And never foot trigger. Standing on the bridge of the submarine. Yeah, they definitely saw action. Yeah. This is the sleeve for the periscope. Oh no, that's not the periscope. That's probably an EM antenna here. This would be the sleeve for the two periscopes, the two front ones here. Up above, you have two sleeves on the conning tower and the two periscopes, the headlamp, and then radio antennas in the back. The captain or the officer of the deck would hold their watch. They have some eyes here to look through. They have a compass. They'd stand up here when they were on the surface. Right below is the hatch, probably into the control room. These little platforms right here is where the watch would stand, the lookouts. Oftentimes in wartime, once they saw the enemy ship, they'd have to dive real quick. They'd actually start submerging before everybody was off of this bridge. They'd have to scramble down that hatch really quick. You'd have at least two officers or an officer and a chief up here and maybe two lookouts. All four would have to get down. Last man down would close the hatch. They also have right here an alarm, which I don't know if that's a diving alarm or collision alarm. Now it looks like they have a hatch here that would go down into the submarine normally. This is where the crew would go through. They've got it rigged for a ventilation, and I will say something about this. That as I'm standing here, there's that very familiar submarine smell. It's unique to anything else that you could possibly imagine. But you can smell it. It's a combination of hydraulic fluids, diesel fuel, body odor, lagging. There's no other smell in the world like this. There's the forward hatch, the capstan, of course the bow light. Down we go. As you're coming down right here, this would be a bunk for somebody.
We were actually in the conning tower getting ready to surface at night. We had started up. The vents were closed. We were blowing compressed air into for a long time, but it really didn't take that long. We made contact with a Japanese I-class.
This up here would be the motor for the capstan. No air conditioning, only those fans. This would be the escape trunk. You'd get up there, you'd close the hatch, flood it, or you'd open up the hatch up the side there, and you escape out.
Most important room in the whole sub.
Well, at least for here. The head, yep. That's the shower.
Big old body through here.
We received a message.
Watertight doors.
Probably
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember these days. Uh-huh. This would be the officers' pantry. And that's the wardroom, where the officers would meet and eat their meals. Another view of the wardroom from the other side. Another officer's quarter. This would be the captain's stateroom. Another watertight door. Oh, this looks familiar. This would have been my area of expertise.
Oh, they got radar. Yeah, GPS.
We do sighting on the stars.
Oh, is the electrical engineer giving lessons on navigation?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, so this is the chart table where they would lay out the charts, and people like myself would keep track of where we're going and where we've been and how long it's going to take us to get there. And this would be the helm right here. And of course, how fast you're going in knots. If you want to understand where the term knots came from, check out one of my very first vlogs at Plymouth Plantation. So let me guess, this would be the ballast control panel.
Part of it.
They would move water back and forth throughout the boat as needed. Here's where they could control the bow planes and the stern planes for the boat. It would show you the depth. And of course the fathometer.
Yep.
I wanted to make note, I did once already in the vlog, but the smell inside a submarine is very unique. There's no other smell like it.
Yep.
Nope. Diesel fumes forever.
Diesel fumes, body fumes.
Hydraulic fumes.
Yep.
You're in close quarters with a lot of people.
I have an old Bible that I took down on the boats with me. You open that up, it still smells like a submarine. This is the galley. And of course the crew's mess, where they'd have their meals. So this big room right here would have been the berthing area. It would have had multiple bunks along the sides and in the center. And of course there were never enough bunks so you would 2 men per bunk. And of course right in the middle below is the access to the battery chamber, which makes sense that it would be in the bunk room, because if you ever had flooding, you did not want salt water going into the battery chamber, so you just grab all the mattresses off the bunks and throw it on top of the battery. Yep, the laundry machine and a little squeezer to dry out your laundry with. Yeah, gotta be careful not to hit your head. So this was the engineering space right behind the crew's quarters. So throttle. Should be in stop mode right now. This would be considered the maneuvering room. This is called an OBA, an oxygen breathing apparatus. If you had a fire or something, put this on, you put a canister in there, pull the pin, the canister would generate oxygen and it'd go up through into a mask that you would wear over your face, and that way you'd be able to fight the fire or the emergency with oxygen. And they also had 4 torpedo tubes in the aft of the submarine. Of course, the inside of a torpedo, these gears, reduction gears, fuel tank, explosives area. Okay, well, that was the USS Lion Fish Beleo class submarine from World War II. This here is the Joseph P. Kennedy Jr. DD 850. These are some big guns. That's the wardroom inside the ship. The saying used to go that there was at one time ships of wood, men of iron. And then they started building ships of iron. But I'll tell you what, when men were on these ships, they had to have a certain amount of iron as well. They had to be tough to live under these conditions. There was not a lot of air conditioning. There was rough seas. There was explosions. There was always the threat of being under attack. It took a certain amount of bravery to go to sea on these things. Okay, so here's an interesting question that not the general public will ever know about. What is this used for? So here's the answer. If you ever see the movies and the guys are sitting there, they got these headsets on, and a little cup in their face, and they're talking to other people, you plug those into that outlet. Here's an example of the missile. That missile would be launched out of this missile launcher. Request permission to come aboard, salute the officer of the deck, and salute the flag. That is a big anchor. Here are the aft guns. Silence since World War II. This should give you a good perspective of just how big these guns are behind me. How big the ship is. Well, certainly some decay. We got grass growing in the decks here. This would be a single man's machine gun. Okay, here's the galley. How they'd serve up chow. Bacon, potatoes, bread. There's your plates. Yep. Big soup kettles, the grills. Interesting thing about the grills on board ships, we used to use something called bug juice to clean them. It's a form of Kool-Aid. It was so acidic that we'd actually use it to clean the grill with. Yet it was meant to be consumed as a beverage. This is the bakery. Figure they had a very large crew, so they had a large bakery. It's a machine shop for making parts, repairs. Something to notice is overhead they have this track where they can move heavy objects throughout the ship. Yep, it even ran right through the blacksmith's shop. The ship's office, crew's quarters, at least a small section of it. Imagine that would be your view when you go to bed. Postal area, ship store, it's the crew mustering on deck. This is a section of the main deck that took a round to it. The battle uniform of a sailor, dungarees. Of course, on the right we have a chief petty officer uniform. On the left, a Marine. Although the majority of the battleship's crew were Navy, a detachment of 80 Marines also served on the ship. Various uniforms. How do you tick off a Marine? Remind them that they're still part of the Navy. Various uniforms for nurses and Red Cross. Women welders hired at the Quincy Four River shipyard during World War II. Mess decks. Probably for the wardroom only. Actually, sell some goodies here. In case you get hungry, which we are. So here's their menu. They got the Admiral for fish and chips. And Captain is bacon cheeseburger. And Ensign is grilled chicken. Master Chief, chicken tenders. Chief is a cheeseburger. They've got all these other sandwiches individually. There's soft drinks, coffee, tea, milk, flavored milk. Go back inside the gift shop and look around for a little bit here.
Okay. You want to go over to the Maritime Museum? Or?
Maybe, yeah. Oh, I don't like this. Okay.
What?
Yeah, that was the USS Massachusetts. And of course, like any good tourist attractions, they have a gift store. There's a model of the USS Missouri. I believe I made that model when I was a kid. Submarine models. There's the Nautilus. How much do they want for that? Let's see. What's the Nautilus cost? Here. Let's see in sticker. $18.99. Oh, this is really interesting. U.S. submarines and U-boats. Andrew Jackson. Let's see. I was on a submarine like that one. And that one, the Tullabee. There's the Typhoon class. That would have been Red October. Okay, well, that's going to do it for today's video. Quite impressive to see what these men went through, how their living conditions were, and what they went to sea on in order to protect our freedoms. So, say a prayer for the men that are deployed as of right now out on the oceans, protecting our freedoms. With that being said, that's going to conclude our video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give us a thumbs up. We will see you on the streets.